We're continuing here with the readings of Na Parayeham, Krishna in Vrindavan series by His Holiness Shivaram Swami. And we are in part 2, chapter 3, called Gauranga, in the mood of his devotees. So this is nice because we're having Gaur Purnima this week. We're going to hear a little bit about Lord Chaitanya being in the mood of the devotees. So we're in the middle of the chapter here. We left off on a section heading, which is called Severing Family Ties. So I'm going to start reading. If anyone has the book there, this is page number 222 at the bottom. Reliable authorities say that there are 3 kinds of adulterous women. The first enjoys both husband and lover, being faithful to neither. The second deserts her husband to faithfully serve her lover, and the third abandons her husband to love Sri Krishna. Society condemns all 3, but the wise praise the last. So it's okay to abandon your husband to love Krishna. Give all your love to Krishna. At the end of his 24th year, in the month of Magh, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, the Lord accepted the renounced order of life, sannyas. In doing so, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left his family, becoming socially dead for the exclusive service of Krishna. Now there's another heading, Wandering in the Forest. The gopis searched for Sri Krishna like a band of mad women. They even asked the trees about him, who, like the sky, is present as the supersoul inside and outside of all created things. O Ashvata tree, have you seen the son of Nanda Maharaj? Who has stolen our minds with his smile? At the instigation of Lord Nityananda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought, now I am going to Vrindavan. For 3 days he wandered throughout Radhadesh in ecstatic trance. When he saw some cowherd boys, he asked, which way is Braj? Pointed east at the prompting of Nitai. So what's happening here is there's a section of some qualities and showing how the qualities of the gopis in Vrindavan, or some residents of Vrindavan, and then how that parallels Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So we had about the gopis abandoning their husbands to go and love Sri Krishna, and the parallel was that Lord Chaitanya left his family and took sannyas. And then for wandering the forest, we had the gopis searching for Krishna like mad women, and then the parallel is that Lord Chaitanya was searching for Vrindavan, asking which way is Vrindavan. So gopis were asking, where is Krishna? Which way did he go? And Lord Chaitanya is asking, where is Vraj? How do I get there? Which way is it? And then the boys that he asked were pointing this way. So next thing is meeting Krishna. When I saw Govinda appear with a smile on his lotus face, wearing a garland and a yellow garment, it appears as if he could bewilder the mind of Cupid. Sakhi, I immediately stood up and showered him with glances of affection, for my life had re-entered my body. Now here's the parallel to Lord Chaitanya. Why do you wish to beat this sadhu? Inquired Sarvabhauma. Jagannath's servant replied, when this Vaishnava entered the temple, he called out, Krishna, Krishna. Maddened, he lost his composure and ran to the Lord. As he reached the deity room, he fainted. So the parallel here is that when the gopi saw Krishna, she was completely bewildered. And when Lord Chaitanya saw Lord Jagannath, he also was completely bewildered. He lost his composure. Then, hearing of Krishna. When the gopis' separation from Sri Krishna reached its flashpoint, they entered the stage of divine madness, unmada. In this elevated state, Sri Krishna appeared within their bodies and minds. Losing awareness of their identities as females, they acted out his pastimes, thinking they were him. Now here's Lord Chaitanya. Hearing of conjugal love and separation, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, this is the limit of life's goal. Please explain how it can be attained. Ramananda said, it is you who are speaking through my mouth and simultaneously listening. This is all very mysterious. Now please listen. So in the one case with the gopis, Krishna appeared within their bodies and caused them to act out his pastimes. And then, in this case, Lord Chaitanya entered into the consciousness of Ramananda Roy and induced him to speak Krishna Katha. And in both cases, the situation was intense separation in order to assuage or give solace to the mind of those who are feeling intense separation. The next is singing of Krishna. O cheater, who other than a cheater would enchant young women, lure them into the forest, and then abandon them? But you are such a great cheater that you have now cheated yourself. If you return home, with whom shall you enjoy the romantic forest atmosphere? Will you remain alone? That's the gopis. And now Lord Chaitanya. Filled with ecstatic love, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveled throughout Dravida Desh, performing Sankirtan like a maddened lion. He would sing the mantra, Krishna, 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 hey. And as soon as he saw anyone, he would request them to chant Hari. So singing of Krishna. Seems that the gopis they're singing to Krishna, and they're kind of chastising him because he asked them to, you should go back home. What are you doing here in the forest at night? And then here, Lord Chaitanya is singing Krishna, Krishna. The last one here is daily meeting and separation. The gopis entered Nanda's palace to mitigate Mother Yashoda's separation from her son. Because the prayers of the demigods delayed Sri Krishna's return, she asked the tallest gopi to climb into the watchtower to report on his progress. The gopi replied, Mother, Sri Krishna is returning with his cows. And Lord Chaitanya. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to dance before the car during the Ratha Yatra, he would always sing the following song. Seta parananata painu yahalagi madana dahane jurigenu. I have gotten that Lord of my life, for whom I was burning in the fire of amorous desire. So this is, the feeling of meeting and separation. So during the day when Krishna goes out to herd the cows, then Mother Yashoda is feeling a lot of separation. And so what's happening here is the tall gopi is going to the top of the roof and climbing up into the watchtower and saying, Krishna's coming, I can see him. And now Lord Chaitanya is, he's dancing in the Ratha Yatra, and he's saying, now I have attained the Lord that I was hankering for. So it's about missing Krishna and attaining him in both cases. Okay, that was a little bit of a challenging section. Now we're going to another one. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned from his tour of South India, Maharaj Prataparudra arranged for his residence at the house of Kashi Mishra. The Lord desired a quiet, solitary place where he could remember the pastimes of Sri Krishna without disturbance. Although Kashi Mishra lived near the temple of Lord Jagannath, his home was in a secluded location just suited to the Lord's needs. So you see how this is Lord Chaitanya in the mood of a devotee, that he just wants to be in a very peaceful, quiet place where he can meditate on the Lord, where he can just sit and remember the pastimes of Krishna. As the spiritual master of the king, Kashi Mishra was well stationed in a large and spacious home. There were 2 courtyards to the compound, an outer one in which Kashi Mishra lived with his family, and an inner, larger one that housed Lord Chaitanya's quarters. Both courtyards were full of flowers, trees, and creepers, and both resembled the gardens by the Yamuna's shore. So not only was it quiet and secluded, but it was also very beautiful and opulent, full of flowers and trees. Reminded Lord Chaitanya of Vrindavan. Entrance to the house was through the main gate of the first courtyard. Since this was the only access to Lord Chaitanya's residence, he was ensured of complete privacy. So to get to Lord Chaitanya's place, you had to pass through Kashi Mishra's quarters. As his visitors were well screened, he was protected from unnecessary disturbance. On the eastern side of the second courtyard was a secluded building with one room, an anteroom, and a large veranda containing many arches. This was the Lord's residence. Because it was a secluded abode in which many deep pastimes took place, it was known as the Gambhira. So this was a space where Lord Chaitanya experienced a lot of ecstatic meditations on Krishna and Radha and Krishna's pastimes. The Gambhira room. That's there in Puri. With Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived Govinda, who attended to the Lord's personal needs. At night, Govinda would sleep at the threshold of the Lord's door, or listen to him open his tormented heart to Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar. To the western side of the courtyard was a smaller house with one solitary room. Here, Paramananda Puri lived with one servant. In between the buildings, tall coconut trees swayed in the wind. Flowering groves full of singing birds graced the flower beds of varied colors. The movements of Lord Jagannath's servants outside were inaudible within the high wall that surrounded the entire premises. In this setting, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed the final 18 years of his pastimes. Diving ever deeper into the moods of ecstatic love, day and night he would be absorbed in thoughts of Sri Krishna, the source of his ever-increasing ecstasy. In the revelation of his emotional ecstasies, which resembled the symptoms of madness, he would speak incoherently and act unpredictably. During the day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged in Sankirtan with his devotees. Thus his senses were distracted, his mind more peaceful. But at night, the pangs of separation from Krishna increased rapidly. Only talks with Ramananda Roy and the sweet songs of Swarup Damodar kept him alive. These two confidants stayed with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to pacify him with remembrance of Sri Krishna's Vrindavan Leela. Srimati Radharani's constant companions, Lalita and Vishaka, would comfort her in so many ways when she felt pangs of separation from Krishna. Similarly, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt Radharani's emotions, Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar would help him maintain his life. Yeah, so this is interesting because Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, but he's in the mood of Srimati Radharani, and he's feeling separation from Krishna. And he's meditating on those pastimes to try to connect, because we can connect to Krishna in our meditations. Like when we chant the holy names and we actually think about Krishna, we can feel Krishna's presence, we can feel his mercy and his love in his holy names. So Lord Chaitanya was feeling so much separation that he, in order to just maintain his life and maintain his sanity, he had to go into these deep meditations on Krishna so that he could feel Krishna's presence and feel like, okay, it's going to be all right. Krishna's here. I'm with Krishna. So it was appropriate that in the mood of Radharani that he would have these deep meditations in the company of his eternal associates, Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar, who were none other than Lalita and Vishaka. So they could totally understand his mind, and they would try to facilitate him going deeper into his meditations. So this is what they would do to achieve that. Ramananda Roy would quote verses from the books of Vidyapati, Chandidas, and Jayadev, and Swarup Damodar would sing beautiful songs depicting the love of the gopis. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with newly aroused emotions, would recite and describe complimentary verses, just as Radhika did to mourn the absence of her beloved. So they would quote from books. These books by Vidyapati, Chandidas, and Jayadev are all about Radha and Krishna's pastimes. And so he would hear the pastime, and then he would just start thinking about it, and he would enter so deeply into it in his heart and mind. And then Swarup Damodar would sing some songs also depicting the loves of the gopis, and Lord Chaitanya would again get into an ecstatic trance of meditation on those pastimes. In this ecstasy of separation, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was despondent, morose, restless, joyful, angry, and humble. His mind transformed by unlimited ecstasies, he would sometimes laugh, sometimes cry, and sometimes stare vacantly into space. To mend his broken heart, to make his mind peaceful, Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy would sing of Sri Krishna's happy pastimes and meetings with the gopis. After half the night was gone, Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy made the Lord lie down and returned to their homes. So Lord Chaitanya would go through all these ecstatic emotions. And these are not ordinary, like mundane emotions, like, the way regular people feel despondent or restless or angry or joyful. But these were all different flavors of his transcendental ecstasies. And so it was like a roller coaster of emotions. And Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy, they were very sensitive. They could understand which emotion the Lord was feeling, and they would recite exactly the verses or songs that would support that would encourage him. Or, if they got worried about him that he was getting too despondent, then they would recite some happy pastime of Radha and Krishna meeting, and then he would become peaceful again. One night, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rose from his bed, overwhelmed by ecstasy. He sat in the darkness, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. His beautiful lotus eyes full of tears, the corners of his reddish lips turned down. The sorrow in his heart lined his face, and the madness in his mind distorted his bodily features. His majestic shoulders hung sideways, his arms listless to his side, his long legs folded to his left. He appeared to be a dispirited gopi, lamenting the absence of her lover. Lord Chaitanya's golden effulgence lit up the room. Lord Chaitanya's golden effulgence lit up the room, but in his anxiety he saw nothing. In the mood of Srimati Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought, Krishna is waiting for me in Vrindavan forest. I must meet him. I must. Feeling great urgency, the Lord rose to his feet. Unable to locate the door, he repeatedly collided against the walls. But in his madness, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mistook the walls to be Sri Krishna's cooling limbs. I must get out. I must get out, he murmured. In this confused state, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could not understand what a wall was. His only desire was to leave the Gambhira and meet Krishna. He was now Sri Radha, confined to her prison-like home in Yavat, driven by the irresistible urge to answer the call of Sri Krishna's love. He was leaving for a nocturnal rendezvous. Walking forward, he pushed against the wall, his limbs grinding against the stone. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could only think of, feel for, and desire Sri Krishna. All other things were meaningless. His entire being was haunted by the call, "I must get out." And so he struggled forward, going nowhere. As he rubbed his butter-soft face against the wall, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sustained injuries all over his mouth, nose, and cheeks. Due to the force of his ecstasy, he could not understand his condition. Within his mind, he was running down the forest path of Vrindavan, following the familiar trail that led to the Yamuna. As a cool breeze blew over Govinda's body, he was awakened by a sound from within the room. Gong, 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 gong. He sat up to hear better. It was not unusual for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to speak or sing in his nocturnal ecstasies, but this was a new sound. Gong, 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 gong. Govinda rose and put his ear to the door. There was nothing. Then, very faintly, he heard a sound like the rubbing of hands and an echo like gong, 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 gong. Alarmed, he lifted the overhead lamp and hurried to Swarup Damodar's room. Knocking on the door, he called, "Prabhu, Prabhu, please wake up, wake up." Swarup Damodar was accustomed to broken sleep from having to rise to contend with the ecstasies of the Lord. From within the room, he called out, "I'm coming." Opening the door, he headed straight towards the Gambhira, as Govinda exclaimed, "There's some strange moving sound in the Lord's room, and a call like gong, 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 gong." Swarup Damodar unlatched the door and took the lamp from Govinda's hand. Together the two entered the darkness. As the rays of the lamp illumined the room, they saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pressed against the far wall, his broad back turned to them. Oblivious to anything, Lord Chaitanya was pushing his golden body forward, moving his arms and legs in a frenzied, rhythmic motion. Swarup Damodar handed the oil lamp back to Govinda, and gently embracing the Lord, made him sit upon his mattress. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked towards him, Swarup Damodar thought he would collapse in despair. Seeing Gauranga's face, Govinda cried, "Vishnu, Vishnu," and almost dropped the lamp. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's face was covered with bruises, his mouth, nose, and cheeks bleeding from injuries. His beautiful countenance appeared like a bruised golden lotus covered with kumkum and musk. To his devotees, the sight was devastating. Still oblivious to his whereabouts, Lord Chaitanya kept moving his arms and legs as if he were going somewhere. Swarup Damodar stroked his body, gradually calming him by chanting the names of Krishna. Holding Gaura's bruised face in his 2 hands, his eyes full of tears, his voice full of sorrow, Damodar asked, "What are you trying to do? Why have you done this to yourself?" Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stared back at him blankly, as if he were haunted. Damodar said, "Your face is covered in bruises and bleeding sores. Why have you injured yourself like this?" Slowly, at first incomprehensibly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke, his lips swollen, his eyes full of tears. "I was in such anxiety that I could not stay in the room. I wanted to go out, and therefore wandered about looking for the door." The Lord turned slowly towards Govinda, who was crying like a child. "I could not find the door, and so I kept hitting the 4 walls. My face was injured, but still I could not get out. I could not get out." The thought of meeting Sri Krishna again flared Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy. He waved his arms anxiously, crying, "But I must get out! I must go!" Swarup Damodar and Govinda restrained the Lord, but he struggled to rise and continue his journey to Krishna's embrace. His mind was unsteady, and his words symptomatic of madness. "Day is approaching," said Damodar. "Prepare to see the lotus-eyed Jagannath, who is waiting for you in the temple. Now you must bathe and dress to meet him." Drawn by the prospect of seeing Lord Jagannath, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became patient, allowing Damodar and Govinda to dress his bruised face. Toward the end of the night he bathed and left the Gambhira with his companions. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had finally escaped the confines of his home. He thought that he was now going to meet the Lord of his life. Approaching the Singhadwara gate, he ran up to the temple stairs, and in the madness of ecstasy addressed the doorkeeper. "My dear friend the doorkeeper, where is Krishna, the Lord of my heart? Quick, kindly show him to me." The guard, who was aware of the Lord's divine ecstasies, saw the Lord's devotees behind him. Grasping the Lord's hand, he said, "Come, see your beloved," and led him into the temple. From beside the Garuda Stamba, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked upon Lord Jagannath with love. As tears fell from his eyes into a depression next to his lotus feet, he thought, "Now my life is successful. I have seen the lotus-eyed one, whom, if seen, pacifies the body, mind, and senses." Seeing Lord Jagannath as Shyamasundar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tasted his unlimited sweetness and became peaceful at heart. The multitude of devotees who came for morning darshan greeted Lord Chaitanya. Distracted by their devotion, the Lord was cheerful again. In time, Swarup Damodar and Govinda led the Lord out of the temple and back to the Gambhira. Having lost the vision of Lord Jagannath, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the vacant space of his room, he was once again an unhappy gopi confined to her home. The bruises upon his lovely face accentuated his unhappiness, and with a vacant mind he sat upon the floor, marking the ground with his nails. The innumerable waves that lapped the shores at Puri seemed small in comparison to the constantly changing moods of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love. Even if one could count the grains of sand upon the beach, one could not estimate the divine transformations displayed by the Lord in the Gambhira. Day and night, by tasting the love of the gopis, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught the world how to love Krishna. Drawing meaningless patterns with his own tears, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cried in an emotional voice. His body heaved as he sobbed, "Alas, where is Vrindavan? Where is Krishna, the son of the king of the cowherds? Where is that person who plays so nicely on his flute?" Although his companions tried to pacify his wounded heart, Lord Chaitanya continued to lament. Where is Sri Krishna, whose form is curved in 3 places? Where is the sweet song of his flute? Where is the bank of the Yamuna? Where is the rasa dance? Where is that dancing, singing, and laughing? Where is my lord Madan Mohan, the enchanter of Cupid? Swarup Damodar sat beside the Lord and gently held his hand. Gazing into Swarup Damodar's eyes with the hopelessness of a lovesick girl, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, Kahan Mura Prananata Murali Vadana, Kahan Karan Kahan Pan Brajendra Nandana. Where is the Lord of my life who is playing his flute? What shall I do now? Where should I go to find the son of Maharaj Nanda? Kahare kahiba keba jane mora duka, Brajendra Nandana vinu phate mora bhuka. To whom should I speak? Who can understand my disappointment? Without the son of Nanda Maharaj, my heart is broken. Now there's another section. This is a heading. Krishna's associates are Gauras. Once, when Sri Krishna danced with the gopis, by intently embracing them, he attained a golden complexion like theirs. On another occasion, by enjoying with Krishna for a long time, the gopis looked like black vines, and out of ecstasy became immobile, like shamalatas. This is a similar thing. This is like we're going to hear parallels between the gopis and Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. So this is about the gopis and Krishna assuming each other's colors due to intimacy or ecstasy. To Advaitacharya, Lord Gauranga said, Devotees worship my unlimited incarnations and forms in one of 5 mellows. I shall now appear with these devotees and give them intense ecstatic love for me. I shall show them how to love me, as do the residents of Vrindavan. So that is on the topic of Krishna's associates are Gauras. Okay, next is compensating devotees by sprinkling them with Radha Bhava. Due to Sri Radhika's intense suffering in separation from Sri Krishna, Manasa Ganga has completely dried up, and Govardhan Hill, which was once so tall the sun god's horses could eat darba grass at its summit, has shrunk to the height of 100 arms. And then the parallel. During Ratha Yatra, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced in the mood of Radha, addressing Lord Jagannath with songs such as Ya Kumara Hara. In his ecstasy, Gaura sprinkled everyone's mind and heart with his prema. Indeed, he showered his own tears of ecstasy. So in Vrajalila, when Srimati Radharani was feeling the ecstasy of separation from Krishna, then that ecstasy sprinkled over onto Manasa Ganga, the lake, which dried up, and it also sprinkled over onto Govardhan Hill, which shrunk. The mountain shrunk down. And so when Lord Chaitanya was in Ratha Yatra, then his ecstasy of love for Lord Jagannath sprinkled into everybody around him, and everyone's mind and heart became infused with love for Krishna. And then he literally sprinkled them with his tears of ecstasy. Actually, we were hearing that today. I was at the Sunday feast class. A nice devotee disciple of Srila Prabhupada here in Dallas. His name is Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu. He was giving the class, and he was saying that one time Srila Prabhupada was speaking, and he was speaking about Lord Chaitanya, and he became very ecstatic, and some tears just like shot forward out of his eyes like syringes, and it made the whole like first 5 rows of devotees that were sitting in front of him. They were sitting quite close to him. 5 rows of devotees got sprinkled with those shooting teardrops of Srila Prabhupada. So it looks like Lord Chaitanya did the same thing at Ratha Yatras. He just like sprayed everyone with ecstatic tears from his eyes. Next heading, becoming indebted, he gives himself. Advaitacharya thought, It is said in Shastra that Sri Krishna, who is very affectionate to his devotees, sells himself to a devotee who offers merely a tulsi leaf and a palm full of water. This means that Hari can only liquidate his debt by offering himself to the devotee. One great soul said, Krishna was not so liberal. He demanded that we surrender, but he did not freely distribute himself. But in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says, take me, take me, take me, without any price, just take me. So this is very sweet, that Krishna gives himself. Krishna promises to give himself to anyone who offers him tulsi leaf and water. And when Advaita Acharya heard that quote from the Shastra, when he read it, he said, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to worship my Shaligram Shila, which is a form of the Lord, and I'm going to daily offer him some tulsi leaves and some water, and I'm going to pray that he come and descend again into the world and deliver the people, fallen people in this age. And that's how Lord Chaitanya came. And when Lord Chaitanya came, he was even more merciful. He just gave himself to anybody that was willing to receive what he had to offer. And what he had to offer was the highest, greatest gift of Vraj Prem, and a love for Krishna in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan, and particularly the gopis of Vrindavan, which is the highest ecstatic love. So the next section is called Intoxicated by Love. Uddhava said to Krishna, my dear Krishna, the gopis are so afflicted by your absence that they have become mad. O Murari, at home Shri laughs without cause, and like a mad woman inquires about you even from stones. In agony she rolls on the ground, bruising her tender body. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu plundered the storehouse of love of God, tasted its contents, and distributed them indiscriminately. In dispensing prema, Gauranga did not consider who was a fit candidate or which was a suitable place. He made no conditions. So this is both intoxicated by love. So Radharani was so intoxicated, she was laughing with no apparent reason and rolling about on the ground, talking to stones. There's also a pastime where she's talking to a bumblebee. I like that. And Lord Chaitanya, his intoxication made him very generous. Right? Sometimes people, when like a man will go to a bar and get drunk, and then he becomes very liberal. He'll just start saying anything, all of his secrets, all the family secrets, his own things. He'll just start pouring out his heart. Or maybe he'll just be like, bye everybody, whatever they want here, let everybody have what they want, I'll pay for it. So like that. Lord Chaitanya also became very liberal, very generous, and he just said, give everybody love of God. Anybody will take it. Just give them the full experience of ecstatic love for Krishna. He didn't consider who deserved it, who didn't. Just gave it out free. So that was intoxicated by love. Next one is overcoming obstacles to meet Sri Krishna. Radhika said, how will I find Krishna? There are so many obstacles. My sister-in-law envies me. My husband is bitter. My mother-in-law is crooked. The enemy parties, such as Padmas, are strong. And during the daytime, Krishna is somewhere in the field, surrounded by his cows and sakas. Poor Radharani. And then here's about Lord Chaitanya. Suddenly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard the sound of Krishna's flute. In ecstasy, he tried to meet Sri Krishna, but the doors to his room were fastened. Nevertheless, he got out of the room, climbed over the 3 walls, and left the house in search of Hari. So Srimati Radharani, sometimes she hears Krishna's flute and she wants to go run to meet him, but her family members stop her, or Krishna gets waylaid by some other gopis' parties. In the same way, when Lord Chaitanya in his meditations hears the sound of Krishna's flute, he wants to run, like we just read, but he's in the room, the door is locked, or he can't find the door because he's too intoxicated by love, and then he's just bashing his face against the wall. So he feels like he's in a prison. And it even said there that he felt like he was Radharani who was imprisoned there in her house in Yavat, not able to escape. Next section, their blessings. Sri Krishna inquired, "O Radha, queen of my life, ask a favor of me. What may I do to please you?" Sri Radhika blissfully replied, "In this forest of Vrindavan, I have my beautiful, charming, and affectionate gopi friends. I have my sister, Chandravali, and all her friends, and I also have your company, which brings me the greatest happiness. What could be more pleasing to me than these things? Still, grant me this one benediction. To those persons who reside in the profoundly sweet land of Vrindavan, and who for a long time yearn with a steady heart to some day attain you, please, O Master of Gokul, appear before their eyes as their youthful friend." In ecstasy, Sri Krishna said, "Beloved, so be it." With great happiness, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Advaita, "What may I do to please you?" With folded hands, Advaita humbly said, "What more can you do to please me? Lord, you have revealed the most confidential pastimes of Sri Krishna, and having crushed the influence of Kali, you have described the secret meaning of devotional service and pure love. You have brought all auspiciousness to devotees expert in relishing the mellows of transcendental pastimes, and you have openly revealed the pure love of the crest jewel of gopis, Sri Radha. What more could you do? You have given everything. Still, please grant me this one request. Please bless me, that in the next life I may have the companionship of your devotees. That is my only desire." So this is very similar. Krishna offers Radharani a benediction, and she says, "What can I ask? You've given me everything. I'm so satisfied. I don't need anything." But she says, and this is a really nice thing for us to meditate on, what she asks is that anybody who lives in Vrindavan and for a very long time yearns with a steady heart to attain Krishna. So you can go to meditate on Vrindavan or be in a temple of that Srila Prabhupada established in the West, which is like an embassy of Vrindavan, and steadily yearn to attain Krishna. And Radharani says, if you do that, she asks Krishna, for those who do that, please appear before their eyes as their youthful friend. And he says, sure thing. So now we know what we have to do. We have to be in Vrindavan and yearn for Krishna's association steadily, with a steady heart. Not that sometimes we're like, I really want to be with you, Krishna, and other times you're like, I really want to just go watch a movie. That's not going to make Krishna come. But we have to be ekeha, continuously, with determination. Unfailing in all circumstances, he says in Bhagavad Gita. Those who engage in pure devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcend the modes of material nature and come to the level of Brahman. And that's just the beginning. That's not even Krishna appearing before you. That's just transcending the material modes. And even that has to be unfailing in all circumstances. So we have to really try to be on that platform of steadiness. And then it's also instructive that Advaita Acharya, what he asks Lord Chaitanya for, is the companionship of the devotees in his next life. So he's not even like, let me go back to Godhead at the end of this life. Of course, he's the Lord himself, so he doesn't need to ask that. But he's showing us how to be a devotee. What does a devotee want? What does a devotee value more than anything? And that is the companionship of pure devotees. So he's saying, I don't mind if I have to take birth again, but just grant me this request that in my next life I can have the companionship of your devotees, devotees of Lord Chaitanya. So how does Lord Chaitanya respond to this? Pleased, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled and said, Advaita, listen to my boon. I will go to Vrindavan and accept you all as my companions. I will give you splendid spiritual forms like my own, and with my sweet pastimes I will fill your hearts with bliss. That is what I will do for you. My friends, you may be in any rasa, with any of my forms. I will not discriminate. If you are attached to Radha and Krishna in friendship, if you are an associate of Dwarkadish, If you are a servant of any of my other incarnations, it does not matter. If you are bound to me in this form of Gauranga, I will make you into my eternally liberated associates in Goloka Vrindavan. Wow. Advaita replied in ecstasy, so be it. By your desire, may you bless us with such transcendental forms and residences. Thus situated, we will eternally remember your wonderful transcendental pastimes. My Lord, I pray that until the end of this kalpa, poets may write books and performers may enact narrations of your transcendental pastimes. May the devotees be overjoyed and the wicked be freed of envy by hearing such descriptions. May everyone become filled with happiness. The Lord looked over his devotees with great love and replied, so be it. So if you're a poet or a writer, please write books and poems about the transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And when devotees read those books or hear those books, like now, I'm reading and you're hearing, and I'm also hearing, may we be overjoyed and freed from envy and become filled with happiness. That's the blessing of Lord Chaitanya. So now there's a conclusion here that Shamalata Saki, who is the narrator of this, is going to be speaking. Gauranga, Gauranga. Saki, gradually by the desire of Gauranga, I regained my outer consciousness. Seeing my smile of bliss and twinkling eyes, my friends could understand my heart. I sat and held their hands, feeling refreshed, but speechless. Prema is not subjected to the dictates of time. By the influence of Sri Krishna's prasad, I could understand what I witnessed in that faint. Some call honoring his remnants a meal. I call it a revelation of Gauranga's love. O Gauranga, you are an ocean of love. How freely you gave love. How much you suffered for love. How you desired to take love. There was no one like you. Navasaki, Gauranga has repaid the debt of love. This truth is hidden deep within the pages of the Vedas. After washing my hands, mouth, and feet, I sat upon my couch and wondered, what next? I had come to understand so many things by the grace of Sri Radha, yet some questions remained unanswered. I was still uncertain about Sri Krishna's attitude towards Radha, and very curious to know more about her love. I looked out the window and watched the birds flying in the quiet afternoon sky. As I searched my heart, these questions appeared in my mind. But who would I ask, and who would answer? Priya, you are smiling. Yes, you understand. Only in Vrindavan does prema fully reveal itself. Live in Vrindavan, and you will also come to know everything about love. Thus, by the grace of Vraj and Vraj's queen, the answers to my final questions on love came in a very wonderful way. And that's what we're going to hear about next time as we start part 3 of the book. It's called Prema Samputa, which translates as the love box. So we will stop there and see you hopefully tomorrow. Continue reading. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gauranga. Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo.